We have been allocating for a full member and an alternate. We took one full member from the ANC, Honorable Ngola, and Honorable Sokanyile from 11 yesterday until 1. We went ahead and took the MKP from 2 o'clock until 3:45, and came back and took the DA until 5:30. 25 minutes to 5 to 7:20, we took the members of the EFF. And then the last batch was Honorable Mwango and Honorable Vessels. Their apologies have been recorded. They will not be here with us today. The first 1 hour, 45 minutes will be allocated to the PA and Action SA. Welcome, Chief Whip. Welcome, Sangoni. I see the way you look at me. You wanted to settle on your chair. I'm not calling you. I'm calling the PA and Action SA. Honorable Sauls, good morning. Honorable James, good morning. Your time starts now, is until 1:45. So you will take us to break. You can start now. Can I check who is starting? Yourself, Honorable James. Or she says Honorable Sauls. Thank you very much. Your time starts now.
Minister, the main witness testified that he is not alleging that your decision to disband is unlawful. He further testified that he does not allege that you are corrupt, but he does express concern about the reason to disband, especially the rush to do so, given your use of the word immediately. He thus alleges that it is his view that your reason for disbandment is to protect drug cartels, or the Big Five, as we've come to know. In my view, looking at the evidence put forward thus far, it does not show beyond reasonable doubt that you are seeking to do so. However, how you responded to questions on your relationship with certain people that are put forward as questionable characters was a bit concerning. So I'm going to begin just to get some clarity from you, Minister, with clarity-seeking questions on certain key matters where I saw contradictions. I hope you will clear them up, and we shall go in depth thereafter about your reasoning on disbandment. How would you describe the relationship between Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo?
Thank you, Chair. History shows that, one, they had a very lasting, close relationship characterized by trust, mutual trust. But it was not a one-day crafted kind of relationship, nor was it a desktop one. They forced their relationship in the fight against injustice in South Africa, which dominating feature of the apartheid system and racism and so on. So in the main, it was trust. It was
Minister, in his first speech upon his release from prison, February 11, 1990, he called Would you agree that the term comrade is used as you've just described it in the ANC context or historic context is a formal term?
I don't get your question.
Yeah, Honorable Souls, the last part, even me sitting here, I couldn't hear you. You say the term comrade used in ANC context does what?
The minister defined what comrade or what the relationship between former President Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo was. And he mentioned it as closeness, a relationship of trust. And that was in the ANC historic context. And the minister testified that similarly, he has a relationship with Brian Mokgotsi in that context, in the party, and then refers to him as comrade, but then says that the term is not a formal one. So now I'm trying to engage on, would the minister agree that in the context that he has just described the term, that it is actually a formal term?
What he's saying is whether you agree that within the context of the party to which you belong.
But yes.
So it is a formal term. You define your relationship with Mr. Brian Mokgotsi using that formal term.
As I say, it can be used formally, but also just loosely to refer to someone who is within the ANC, within the party. The contexts differ, but generally, that is the context.
Minister, you testified that factually, it is me who wrote the letter, close quote. Is this true?
I testified that.
You testified that, open quote, factually, it is me who wrote the letter. EB 40, page 50. When you look at the letter, the last, I think is the second last paragraph, you say there, further, that a preliminary report in this regard be submitted to the minister by the 20th of January 2025. Why do you speak in a letter that you have written? Why do you speak in the third person as though it's not you having written it?
Well, I do sometimes write like generally, and personally, I'm not a self-conceited person. I'm not necessarily a person who wants, while writing a letter, you say the letter must be written, a preliminary report must be written to me, like that. I just wanted to have that small distance that the letter, the preliminary report must be written to the, I could have said ministry, but said minister and so on. There is no other reason other than just being formal to the minister instead of me. Yes.
But the sentence just above that, you use the term my and I.
Yes, I do so.
In your testimony, Minister, what is the reason for withdrawing the statement, open quote, further existence of the required, nor is it adding value, any value, to policing in South Africa.
The first part deals with what I've been dealing with in the last 3 days, or it refers to that, no longer required, emanating from right from 2019, when they intended then to replace the National Political Killings Task Team with a structure that was based on the study that had been done, and they sought long-term, they sought sustainability, just to make sure that they continue in a sustainable way to fight what was emerging. But taking it broader than just political killings, there were other crimes that were emerging at that time, and they thought that in order to contain everything, let them create a new structure. So even then, they felt that once that structure gets implemented, a structure like the National Political Killings Task Team, only based in KZN, wouldn't be required. But then there were delays and extensions up to 2024, when they finally submitted to the National Commissioner a report that was supposed to be signed and then implemented, and which didn't happen. So no longer required comes from that kind of observation. Now, adding, in the sense that a lot of crimes and a lot of people in the country are complaining about matters, they're complaining about drugs, they're complaining about, and myself, I'm also complaining about that, because I've seen in some instances people just getting murdered, and to find that in the background there are drugs and related matters, including illegal firearms. And therefore, if you have a structure of 68 people based in KwaZulu-Natal, whereas these crimes are all over, especially in the 4 provinces, you wouldn't feel that you are adding value. If you look at 415 million from 18 to now, of course you'd say they were doing well and so on in the tasks that they were facing, but no longer equally so because of the changes that have taken place.
But when you were asked about the wording used, you then agreed that they do add value. You are withdrawing the fact that you said that they do not add any value.
No, I'm talking about as time 2023.
I fully understand that, Minister, but I'm trying to get to understand, even after that explanation, why then did you accept that perhaps you should have phrased it differently? Why did you accept that in testimony?
Why didn't I accept?
When the question was posed to you, why did you use the words that they did not add any value? And then you said, no, they did add value. So maybe you should have used other words. So I'm trying to understand, why did the minister withdraw?
Well, that you are putting a weight to those words. And you recall when I spoke to the evidence leader, I did say to the evidence leader, when he said, was it not possible to use any other term or other terms, I said, yes, for the same purpose, I could have used softer words and so on. So similarly to the question that you are now posing, construction of a sentence can always take different forms. But those are the words that I used at that time. So, and you will realize that when the CFO...
Sorry, Minister, with respect. So for today, as per your testament the last time, do you stand by how you phrased it on the 31st? You're saying that you're pulling that back like you said the last time, and you could have used different words. Or are you maintaining that they have not added any value to the South African police?
I don't think the actual wording says they have not added. It says, no, are they adding? In other words, if you read the whole sentence, no longer required, it could have said, no longer adding value.
So you're saying that
Yes, that's
from the 31st going forward, they're no longer adding, but prior, they have added value.
Yes.
Okay, they have
Yes.
added value.
Pardon?
You are saying they have added value.
Yes, they have, but
They no longer do from the 31st.
yes, if you look at, for instance, the figures that were presented in Parliament on the 5th, which I've been referring to, where in March we're dealing with one fresh case. We dealt with 7 fresh cases in 2024. You wouldn't really say, maybe in a long-winded sentence, you could say, based on no longer adding value, based on one monetary investment, which would have declined as the cases decline, and also based on the fact that you pull people from other stations and you don't replace them over time, which means that where they come from, they leave gaps. So they, in my view, you are no longer optimizing and using those resources equal to the value.
So I read the evidence that you...
Honorable Sols, let me take Honorable Malimada.
Thanks, Chair. Morning, Minister. Morning, colleagues. Honorable Sols is asking you about something that you wrote here, and you say you don't think it's written like that. You're saying my observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that further existence of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa. And then the question is, do you still stand by that?
The answer is yes. But when he pursued me, I then tried to elaborate. Thank you.
No, Minister, I fully understand that
Are you okay, Honorable Malim? Thank you. Honorable Sols, thank you so much. You may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. No, Minister, I fully understand that you maintain they are no longer adding. But what you are saying is that they have added before.
Definitely.
Now, I want us to now take a few minutes and interrogate that statement. Have they added before to the value of the South African police service as a whole? We're going to walk through that. So when we consider the PKTT, the extension requests, the budget increases, even though the staff complement decreases. Example, the initial request covering 6 months, September 2019 to March 2020. They asked for 57.1 million for a team comprising of 152 members. By 2021-2022, they asked for 97 million. But the staff complement decreased from 152 that they asked 54 million for. It decreased to 110 members. And now they're asking 97.5 million for. Minister, is that them having added value to SEPs in South Africa as a whole?
What's the exact question?
When you consider your statement, they're no longer adding, but they have added. We are now interrogating. Have they added?
Yes.
And now I'm asking, when we consider throughout the extension requests, and they asked for a budget first in 2019 for only 6 months of 57 million for 152 members. And then in 2021, 2022, they increased that to 97 million, but the staff complement decreased to 110 members. Would you say that they added value to SEPs in South Africa as a whole?
Well, part of what that sub-sentence or that phrase in the last sentence is based on is along those lines, as I've indicated, the calculations in terms of monetary value. But what I didn't add, because I wasn't writing details, you add the personnel, you add running costs of cars, you add, so that is just an indication what you are talking about. When you add all other things, the expense is quite high for the cases that were decreasing, as you are referring to.
So are you saying they have added value despite the way they approach the request
if
for
you-
money, even though the staff complement decreases? It's okay,
At-
Minister.
at the-
If you say yes or no, it will work. Are you saying that it did add value, even though they did that? Yes, no?
I'm saying so at the beginning because at that time you had a problem of killings as the problem was identified, and it added value in the sense that there was a decrease. You can always have a concern about what money was getting into that and so on, as I'm indicating. But generally, that's my view, that at the beginning they added value and they were a factor in the decrease, although not the only factor.
Okay. I'm still just looking at your evidence, and I'm putting it to you what you've given to us. Talking about cases. When you observe that in 2019, the task team reported 60 cases remaining under investigation, 60. By March 2021, the progress report, after giving 100 million, close to 100 million, and they were in existence for 18 months of operation, the number of cases then reported 18 months later, 100 million rand later, was 62 under investigation. No shift. Minister,
62 what? What did you say was the number of cases?
at first they recorded 60 cases
Yes,
under investigation.
I have that in two.
After giving just under 100 million to them, and them being in existence in 18 months, the cases still under investigation was reported as 62. No shift. Minister, did they add value to SEPs in South Africa as a whole?
Well, despite those figures, which I see and acknowledge that you are quite critical. When you look at the expenditure, you look at the figures of cases with minor shifts upwards. You could have a perspective like that look perhaps the value was quite less if you look at from that perspective. But generally, the view is that I share is that they added value at the despite those figures, because I wasn't I mean, I'm not necessarily basing it on case by case and rand for rand, but generally the view which I share was that they did add value at the beginning.
I thought you testified that you applied your mind, and what brings you to a decision must make you consider the past events and steps has to be taken. So I'm going to, of these, only 42 accused were successfully convicted. Consider that fact and others.
Now, you are asking about values still. Are you, what's the question?
Minister, your submission to me was that your statement was that they're not adding value going forward, but they added value when you look back. Now we're looking back and we are interrogating based on facts before us. Did they?
Even though you could still poke some holes in terms of quality thereof and say generally they did add value, and that was acknowledged across. But it's not without those points and factors that you are counting. Hence, where taking all those points into consideration, you do have concerns in terms of value. Could I request, so that I'm of help to you in terms of responding, to get where you are reading from, so that as you read, I look at what you are reading.
Now, I've studied the entire evidence that you've brought to us. And this allocation only pertains to a unit in KZN. I ask you, Minister, did this add any value to SEP's South Africa as a whole?
Well, I'll go back to my answer that generally, when I looked at all the factors, my honest view was that the value had been decreasing over time. If you are considering South Africa, as you point out, that was my concern, and finally settling for a directive, because the cases on one hand decreasing, the budget was not necessarily, and the concerns of the CFO. So I share that concern. It culminated at that directive.
Okay. So we've moved from no to you share the concern. All right. Is it true that the DPCI's reported overall staff shortfall amounts to 2,711 personnel?
DPCI.
Yes, sir.
Well, without the advantage of figures in front of me, but I do know that generally they have been raising concerns via General Libya, who was head of DPCI. They have been reporting problems on personnel, on equipment, and on various other components that would enhance their work. They've been complaining over time.
So,
Not only them, but let me hold it at that, it is true.
so I put it to you, Minister, there's 2,711 staff members that DPCI, Hawks, is saying they need. Now, when you consider that, and you spend just under 100 million on a temporary unit, when there is a need to fund such a critical.
There is a basis of an argument for a decreasing value. You may, as I answered you earlier, that yes, at the time, but as time went on, it clearly unsettles you and makes you a bit uncomfortable. That how you are spending resources may be skewed, and those figures that you are pointing out serves that particular purpose. You looking at your distribution of resources within subs, and they increase your concern.
So the concern is increasing now.
Yes, they increase the concern and the need for a more rational kind of use of resources.
All right, let's continue. Minister, when you consider the budget allocation for laundry services alone for 12 months in 2022, for 110 members, it amounted to 4.4 million, just laundry. This translates to a calculated monthly amount per person, just for laundry, per person, 3,367 rand 73 cents. This figure is equivalent to the basic living cost of a normal South African. And that money is used on one member just for laundry. Has this added value to the South African police service in South Africa as a whole?
Time when I wrote the directive, because of that, you continue to sit uncomfortably as you consider other factors. And as I say, the issue starts in November, where I say I have these concerns about matters and all of that, but you don't have additional resources from Treasury. So you have to be on your own. And when you put it the way you're putting, on the side of lesser and lesser value.
Consider that in 2021, 2022, the figures reveals that 43.6, or rather 43.1 million was requested for overtime alone, just overtime. When you calculate that per member, each member gets approximately 300 per annum. And that is over and above their normal salaries. Minister, is this adding, has it added to the value of the as a whole?
Just to,
Yes.
Just to check, Minister. Honorable Souls, are not those the questions for the portfolio committee of the police and the accounting officer?
Chair, you can guide me, but I am taking all this information from the evidence that has been submitted to us. At that, and the statement that is made, I'm trying to weigh whether there has been value so that we can assess whether there is